Hello, football family. Welcome into Huddle It Up Films here with the Ravens Way. Yes, Ravens Way. Uh, their link is below. Yuri, Vaz have a YouTube channel there, so make sure you go ahead and check them out. And these guys are in on the draft like me, so really excited to have them. And the premise of the show is if the Ravens stick and pick at 22, they can't find anybody to trade back with. Who are you taking? Like, I see a lot of people out there saying, well, would you take Joey Porter Jr. if he's out there? And the answer is always, well, it just depends on who else is out there. So we figured we'd come together, put together our sweet 16 of guys. The reason we picked 16, number one, it sounds good. We got a sweet 16 going. Number two, if you pick a 22, you're going to have your quarterbacks go. You're going to have guys that aren't on your list go. So we wanted to kind of narrow it down. You know, if these two guys are on the board, who do you have ahead? Of course, I have my big board out. I'll put the link to my big board below. If not, you can probably find it in another video. Apologize for not putting that out. But I'm sitting here. You can see the list of my guys already filled in since it's no secret. But I had to bring my guys, Yuri and Baz, in to help. Yuri, how are things going? How's things going with the YouTube?
It's going good. We're getting it going. For about four. This would be the fourth episode, Ravens Way 4.0. As time's going on, gradually viewers have increased, likes have increased. Yeah, it's booming. Business is booming.
Yeah, check them out. Check them out. What about you, Baz? Mr. Smooth over there. I see and hear you everywhere. How's life, brother?
Everything's great, man. This is one of my favorite times of year. I've been following the draft for 25 years or whatever, and always gets your juices going. I love it.
Yeah. Heard Vaz on with Ken. Been on with Ken myself. I'm going on tonight actually to do some safety talk. So that should be fun. That's a position close to my heart. So Vaz, every player on the board is available except for quarterbacks here.
Yeah.
And who would you take first? Who is your first guy, Vaz? I'm gonna type in as we go, brother.
Number one for me has got to be Will Anderson. I think he's a true blue chipper. Um, you can't go wrong taking pass rushers. You can never have too many of them. I think he's a cornerstone player. He might not be at the level of the Bosa's or Chase Young or Garrett as far as that super premium, perfect in every way prospect. But I think he has enough prodigious production, speed to power to be like an all-pro type. So you can't pass that guy up.
Yeah, well, he's very high on my list, obviously, too. Yuri, Will Anderson, just talk about him for a second. I think that summed it up pretty well. There's really nothing that he can't do. He sets the edge well. His speed to power is there. He's coming from Alabama. Just a highly sought after guy. Probably go in the top 5 to 10. Definitely top 10, I would think. Would you put him number one? Is he your number one guy? What do you think about Will Anderson? Do you have him further down?
He is. I hate when Voss takes my thunder. I really do. He was going to be my number one guy, and I was hoping it was a little bit more of a shock. I feel like people are over analyzing him at this point. They've known he's been that guy for 2+ years now, maybe even 3. So, very frustrating watching Alabama's defense and them stick him into 4-eye and instead of letting him rush off the edge. I think that was something that when we talk about a prospect, what they can do versus what they can't do. A lot of the times, college offense or college defenses are just sticking guys in weird spots. But Voss put it pretty well. Speed to power. He can bend. He can do everything. I think he's on par with the Myles Garretts of the world and the whole blue chip prospect thing. I have no problem saying that. I think he's head and shoulders above everybody else in this class in terms of prospect.
Excellent. So I have a conversation for a little bit later. So I'm going to get to Yuri. Why don't you turn around and give us your number 2, bro? Go ahead and go with you.
All right, number 2. Man.
Don't take my guy.
What?
Don't take my guy.
Well, I might. I'm going to double down on it. Tyree Wilson. Just another physical, traits-based, just kind of like Gregory Rousseau almost, who's turned out to be a pretty good pass rusher, very underrated. Also, Rashawn Gary is another comp, but he's got all the tools you need. And I think in terms of a Ravens sense at edge, I'm looking for someone that can set the edge. that has the sand in the pants to really upend a tackle. I need someone aggressive. I really do. I'm tired of this finesse stuff. Give me some angry bull rushing type, and I feel like he, sets the bar.
I feel you on that. I feel you on that. Vaz, as Anderson versus Wilson at the edge, man. Talk about, obviously, Will Anderson's number one on your list. I mean, I could see a world where people would say Tyree Wilson's upside is higher than Anderson because of what Yuri said. He's just a beast. That long arm, that speed to power, an enforcer on the edge. But most people have Anderson over Wilson. I do, and both of us do.
It's razor close for me, and Wilson's my number 2 as well. I think the length, he's always going to have that leverage advantage. He has some things to work on. I think he does probably have a little bit of a higher upside than Anderson, just because he's a little bit more of that physical specimen. Definitely has some work to do to clean up, some of his shirt tackling and things of that nature. But I think he definitely can be a game wrecker. And just general theory, I think you want to draft you want to draft scarcity. What are the scarce skill sets, traits, positions? That's where you really find your surplus value.
All right, Vaz. So here's where we're going to butt heads for the first time. And I'm going to throw this to you. Yuri, follow up on Vaz if you could, buddy. Just talked about scarcity. You kind of made my point of why I have Jalen Carter number 1. Jalen Carter to me is every bit a good as prospect as far as his upside, what he's produced in college. Best player on that Georgia defense, I thought, last year. I kept trying to watch other people, and 88 would make the tackle before Jordan Davis destroyed somebody and made the tackle, or the other guys on that defense. So I think it's harder to find interior pressure. I think it's harder to find a monster on the inside. Whereas you can find guys that specialize in different things on the edge. You can get a guy in the second round later on who's a pass rusher, not the total package of a Will Anderson or Tyree Wilson. But when it comes down to it, if I have a stud D tackle versus a stud edge, I'm taking the stud D tackle. So could you guys speak, starting with Vaz, about why you don't have Jalen Carter to argue with me a little bit on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more just the Ravens' need. I think the need for an edge rusher is slightly more pressing as far as 2023 season than defensive tackle. But I definitely see the argument. I see the scarcity argument for Carter. I think he has a lot of Chris Jones in his game, or a little, Ndamukong Suh. Just the way he sheds blocks, I think, is really what stands out about him. I mean, just so I can see that argument, especially during the ball out quick era. I think interior pressure oftentimes is more important than edge pressure.
Yeah, my argument is similar. I just feel like the Ravens' need takes over the BPA factor to it. Of course, this is a Ravens-centric board. If this was some other team, then maybe Carter is slotting in here at 3, which he's not for me. So, I'm gonna keep pushing him down on my board a little bit. But it was very clear that he was the best player on that defense last year. Even when I was looking at Jordan Davis, I thought, like, okay, the guy next to him is just a lot better. And, Jordan Davis is good. He's pretty good. So you talk about interior pressure, and I feel like you said, very rare skill set to get in the modern NFL from an interior standpoint. You have Deron Payne. You have some of these one-gap penetrators like Javon Hargrave, all that stuff. So I like him. But in a Ravens sense, I feel like there's just other ways I could go about it.
All right, so I'm going to push back one more time and have us go around. After this year, Vaz, only person that signed is Travis Jones. Michael Pierce had the void years added. Madubuike, Broderick Washington are free agents. Brent Urban is year to year. Calais left, so of course we have Calais' spot to fill as well. So it's not like we don't have playing time to go around. Heavy rotational defensive line. Whereas on the edge, we have David Ajabo and Odafe Oweh and Tyus Bowser all signed up for 2024. So we have starters at each position per se, not that a highly drafted rookie wouldn't get snaps. But we have people at edge. This time next year, we cannot fill an entire defensive line in one draft. So my pushback, just to give you a chance to answer, is D tackle is just as big, if not a bigger need than edge.
So I think it comes down to a numbers game. I think the fourth outside backer roster spot is a little bit more important for the 23 season than the sixth defensive lineman, because I think you do have 5 quality guys. I understand 24 needs, certainly. And just a little bit off tangent, but a lot of folks are talking about running back because that's a 24 need, and I agree it's a 24 need. You can get a running back next draft. There's going to be running backs. You may not be able to get a defensive lineman, especially not of Carter's quality in this hypothetical situation where he's fallen to 22. So I get that for sure. I'm not opposed to carrying 6 defensive linemen on the active, the 53, but I think you can get away with 5 for this year. I'm expecting one of the 2 pending unrestricted free agents to be brought back. And I'm expecting a pretty good year out of Jones. And, you can, both the Super Bowl teams last year picked up high quality, big name defensive linemen, down the stretch run. They were sitting on the street, and Brandon Williams and Ndamukong Suh, and who was the other one? Lavelle Joseph. So all 3 of those guys were sitting there in November. To me, it's a little, you can get a serviceable body if you need one.
Definitely. Yeah. I like Voss said, I think the Ravens are probably going to bring back at least one, if not both, of the free agents next year. And quite frankly, in my eyes, the Ravens are kind of all in, and I think they should address as many 23 needs they can now, and maybe worry about 24 needs in 2024.
There you go. So there's the argument right there. And let's face it, guys, if we're sitting there trying to choose between Jalen Carter and Wilson or Anderson, we're in a great spot either way.
Absolutely.
So I just figured it was worthy of a conversation. Vaz, let's go to your number 3 guy, buddy. Let's see if we can get somebody else on the board here.
So my number 3 is Gonzalez, the cornerback, the transfer. I think he has, again, another guy with all-pro potential, just one of the most fluid athletes I've probably ever seen going through the drills. He's got the size, he's got the length, and the ball skills. I think his ball skills are getting a little bit underplayed in this class. So cornerbacks maybe my favorite position in football, and I'm always a proponent of getting cornerbacks. So he's my number 3 for now.
Cornerbacks are pushed up my list, Vaz, because I do not want another 3rd or 4th round cornerback in this group. I expressed this last night with Alec Polianis. This is a deep cornerback group where you could get somebody like Eli Ricks or Riley Moss, even Darius Rush, whoever you like, 3rd round. It's just as deep as edge. But my thing is, I want a stud next to Marlon because we already have Jalen Armour-Davis, Pepe Williams, Brandon Stevens, a bunch of mid-round picks. I don't want to throw another one in the mix and try to figure out playing time amongst all those guys. So that's why Christian Gonzalez is only behind Jalen Carter on my list. Yuri, you want to give your 3rd right here? We get another discussion point going.
Yeah. So my 3rd, let's get freaky. Deonte Banks, number 3. When you talk about a Ravens Red Star, whatever the term is they use, play like a Raven, all that stuff, he has it all. He has. My only problem with him is the fact on fade routes and sideline routes he doesn't get his head around, but that's something that's pretty easy and fixable. I think he's good in man, he's good in the run, he's good at zone. He's a physical player. He plays with such like just innate ability to be an animal on the football field. I want that. He's my corner 1. He's also the best testing, and I know testing whatever, tape, blah blah blah. The number 1 relative athletic score of all time for corners. That to me, I mean, that's almost you could call it generational. Like that is the number 1 of all time out of 1,900 players. I mean, that's how there's no higher to go. He's number fucking 1. Well,
he's got to do the 3-cone though. He didn't do the 3-cone.
Yeah. They chicken out on some of the drills. Vaz, handle my light work and Yuri over here. Go ahead and give him.
So I like Banks a lot, and actually, I have him pretty damn high on my list. But that's number 3 is a little rich for me. I think there's a little bit of tightness there where he's not quite the most fluid compared to a Gonzalez. So just a quarterback in general, just looking at the Ravens' history, if I can make a couple comments quickly, they always like the best day 3 cornerback they've ever found ever was, I guess, Averett. I'm pretty sure it's Averett. And they found Webb in the 3rd round, and they found Baxter in the 2nd round, and they found a couple of these guys. But, most of their quarterbacks throughout the years are really high-end guys. So, I am all about a cornerback at 22 if that's possible. And I wouldn't be against another. I think they still need 2 corners. So that's a place that I think they need quite a bit of work still to do compared to any other position right now.
Love it. So, Yuri, what I'm going to question you on is stylistic fit. The difference between a right cornerback and a left cornerback. The right cornerback, obviously Marlon Humphrey, out there on the island versus your ex receiver. A lot of times when the formation's right-handed, you need a physical freak like Marlon Humphrey, like Deonte Banks, perfect for that role, to be able to press, to bail, like you said, zone coverage, man coverage, bully on the sideline, all that stuff. Playmaking kind of takes a back seat to that role because you've got to be able to cover. So if you don't turn your head for the ball like Banks or Marlon, who has not really developed that too much, disagree with you that that's a developing skill. I think a lot of guys get stuck. They'll never be great at it, for instance. They'll get better, but they'll never be great at it. What I'm looking for, why I have Gonzalez and Witherspoon as my first 2 cornerbacks, and Porter actually ahead of Banks, is the playmaking ability, is their ability to close the ball. They're fit specifically for the Ravens as a left cornerback, working in tandem with whoever's next to them and being able to make plays. So what do you have to say to me on that?
There's nothing wrong with having 2 guys that can shut it down. I mean, that's why you pay Marcus Williams $14 million a year. That's your playmaker, in my opinion. If you wanted to, if you really want the playmaker, bring back Marcus Peters. And maybe you can hope his ACL is recovered fully enough and he's got that instinct back in him. But I don't see anything wrong with having 2 shutdown guys. And to speak on the hip tightness thing, a lot of people were saying with Marlon Humphrey that he was very tight in the hips, and then that was because they stuck him in the slot. And then as soon as they put him back outside for this season, it was back to All Pro Marler. So if you have someone stiff with the hips, I don't think you should put him in the slot. That's just my opinion. And I felt like Marlon Humphrey was always good outside. And I feel the same with Banks, and I feel like having 2 shutdown outside corners is not a bad problem.
Definitely not. And of course, we're nitpicking here as our favorite prospects of the board. I would be doing backflips if we could get Deonte Banks at 22. I mean, physical freak, like you said. Honestly, he's the kind of guy that if you want to move him to, like, say Marlon's out or we don't fix slot receiver, and we have Marcus Peters back, you could probably put Banks anywhere and he could stick with any receiver if we're getting down to it. So really getting nitpicky here. Vaz, or actually Yuri, go ahead and give us your number 4 since you lit up the board with Banks there, bro.
Number four. Man.
Where's that big sheet of paper, bro?
It's over here on the right.
Okay.
Number 4, I'm doing it.
I'm
doing it. Quentin Johnson, number 4.
Getting a little wild with it, Yuri.
I'm shooting from the hip. This is my this is my board. This is my board. But here, let me give you the reason why I think Quentin Johnson, in a Ravens sense, is great. One, he doesn't have a lot of pressure to be that guy like the guys in the past have. Marquise Brown, he's been put out there, pressure, he's basically number 1. Bateman comes in halfway through. Marquise Brown kind of took a backseat a little bit during that 2021 season. But Johnson, you have Odell Beckham, you have Bateman. What are the Ravens missing? I mean, I don't know if Beckham's a speed threat anymore. Maybe he's more of like a get open, still good speed, more of like a possession guy. Bateman, you got to see another injury, but the Ravens don't have any yards after the catch. They really don't. And Johnston, I feel like, you can get him out there and he doesn't have to play 100% of snaps right away. You can ease him into the role a little bit. Todd Monken says, I want to use every of the field, and drafting Quentin Johnson and being able to stretch the defense horizontally, and having someone that the offense is stalling, and you need a punch out. You need a punch out. Quentin Johnson can do that for you. He can take a play from that was supposed to be a 5-yard loss into a 25-yard gain, and the Ravens are bottom 5 in explosiveness last year. So this is like the guy over everyone else, over all the other wide receivers to me. And I even have Smith and Jigba on my big board over Johnson, but in a Ravens sense, this is the guy to me.
Okay, so Vaz, I have Quentin Johnson pretty low. I have him as wide receiver number 5 on my board. Given the circumstances, I'd even rather have Jalen Hyatt over him for the speed, take the top off the defense. I'm not sure that Quentin Johnson's yak translates to the NFL as great as it was in college. Like, I think he'll have good yak. Believe me, I think he'll have good yak. But I don't see special yak like a Garrett Wilson. I think, Smith and Jigba, definitely Zay Flowers will have better yak in the NFL. Where does Quentin Johnson where does he place in your wide receiver rankings alone?
So he's actually my top receiver as well. I think, was it Jonas? I think Jonas wrote up an article yesterday for the Baltimore Banner, who I think everybody should take a look at. Anyway, fitting how Johnston could fit into Monken's offense, and it was basically bubble screens and deep shots. That's what he does the best on. It had all kind of EPA stats, and anybody take a look at it. I've been back and forth on the wide receiver board a little bit, but again, this is where I think scarcity of skill set props him up above. It's not a great receiver class. I didn't go really any offensive. My first offensive player is 10th. Let me say that, because I'm concerned about this pass defense. I think it's getting a little bit downplayed, and the Ravens played the Bengals well in the playoffs. Well, the Bengals were missing a bunch of offensive linemen. There was a third meeting that year. The Ravens finished with the 11th best pass defense, so it wasn't like a top 5 unit according to DVOA, and you're losing your best defensive lineman, potentially 2 of your better edge defenders, a starting safety, and your cornerback too. So I like where the offense is. I understand the need to continue adding playmakers. We saw what the Chiefs did last year when they were able to, when you're 5 deep at wide out, you can absorb some injuries, and I like that. And I do like Johnson, but he's definitely not that high on my board.
All right, so Yuri, I'm not the best person to go back and forth with you on Johnson because I'm obviously much lower. So we're going to be far apart. But I would like you to answer buddy Shrimp Trawler, best friend of the show. Thank you, Shrimp Trawler. I always appreciate your support, man. He has 2 comments here. One, Big 12 wide receivers do often bust. That's true. And then he says Johnson and the linebacker D Winters had a rough time versus Georgia. Doesn't pretend well against better NFL competition. So when you're evaluating, Yuri, does history of a conference and how they do against the better competition, how much does that weigh into your evaluation, if you could speak to each one of them?
For the first one, I feel like scouting the helmet is one of the worst things you can do. It's just, it's not fair to the player. It's not fair to the process. You always talk about the process in terms of scouting, and I feel like that's unfair to already have a bias against the player. Not only does it ruin your own mindset, it just ruins a whole bunch of other things. So to speak to, scouting the helmet, I like that that'd be me saying, don't look, don't even bother with CJ Stroud. Don't even look at his tape, because Ohio State quarterbacks aren't really successful in the NFL. That's not fair to him at all.
Okay. So what about the second part here? Key games.
I mean, he's played NFL DBs. Georgia has what? Keely Ringo.
Oh, the semifinal.
Right. Yeah, against Michigan. DJ Turner. And he had some pretty big plays in that game. You look at some other games where he's, I think he did play Kansas State, if I'm not mistaken, right? So Julius Brents, another one. So he's played just fine against those guys. I think TCU was probably biting a little bit more than they could chew with that game against Georgia. So I'm not going to use one game and hold it against the guy.
All right, Vaz. So while you're in the middle of your drink, I'll put you on the spot here. That's beautiful. Alec Polianis checking in. Happy
What's up,
Greek
brother?
Easter to Alec. Vaz, Greek Easter guy?
Christos Anesti. That's our traditional thing we say when we crack the eggs. Christos Anesti, Alithos Anesti. So
Nice.
yeah, we did a nice Greek Easter for sure.
Nice. And Vaz, by the way, we celebrated Greek Easter this year. The wife made Greek oven baked potatoes because she was working on Easter Sunday. So,
Very good. Lemon,
yeah.
a lot of lemon. The lemon and oregano is the key to the Greek oven baked potatoes.
Yeah, she says she cooks better than Alec. I'm not convinced because Alec is known around the house as the hoagie master. Came over for the combine with a hoagie that looked like he could have sold out a food truck for $15. So that is, love you, Alec. Glad you're watching, buddy. Vaz, take us away with your number 4. So no wide receivers coming yet for quite a while for Vaz. Who you got, buddy?
No, I'm going with Jalen Carter. I think you said it well. It's rare to have a disruptive interior penetrator, and that's extremely valuable with quarterbacks in the ball out quick era. He didn't test well. He has off the field, but he's head and shoulders better than any other defensive, interior lineman in this class. So that's my number 4 for sure.
All right, thanks, Vaz. And, I don't think we really need to expand on Jalen Carter's game. Strengths all, weaknesses none. That's the best way to put it. So I just have one follow-up question for you. If the off-field stuff is concerning, I would imagine he is off some teams' boards just because of there's a lot of stuff that goes on in college that we don't know about, okay? So you hear about one incident. If you hear about one, there's generally a lot more. And for you to come in and not be able to finish drills at your pro day with the big spotlight on you, I'm sure that turned teams So Jalen Carter has a Jeffrey Simmons type fall to this board, and he's there at 22. Ravens seem pretty risk averse, at least recently. I would say less than 50% chance that the Ravens would take him if he has a Jeffrey Simmons type fall. Your gut feel here.
It's hard to say without knowing the details of the background. I don't like to opine on anything that happens off the field because I wasn't there. Will the Ravens possibly do that? I feel like DeCosta's feeling a little bit, got a little aggressive hair up his rear end this offseason with the void years and the Beckham. So I wouldn't put it past him. Percentage-wise, what's the percentage chance he actually makes it that far? He's not even taking visits after the top 10, right?
Right. Which also is like a, what's up with this guy, man? But Yuri, same thoughts, like no feel for this, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yuri, go ahead and kick us off with your number 5 here, sir.
I will go Witherspoon, cornerback out of Illinois. Similar to Banks, just another very wiry player. Probably the best man corner in the class. I feel like that's very safe to say. Obviously aggressive in the run, very aggressive, like a heat-seeking missile. There's not much else to say. He's a pretty overall well-rounded corner prospect.
There you go. And that's one of the things that first thing I wrote down with Witherspoon, I remember. By the way, it's Devin and not Devon. Listen to highlights sometimes and make sure that you get the name right in the combine. That's what I like to do. It's spelled with an O-N, but he goes by Devin Witherspoon. The first thing I wrote down, though, Vaz, is they moved him around left side, right side, man, zone. You could tell that he was very comfortable in all spots. So before I even got to what his play speed was like and, the particulars of him as a corner, I noticed the versatility right away in the first game I watched, whatever that was, of Witherspoon. Did you notice the same thing? And if so, that's got to be appealing to the Ravens.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely appealing. They have, with Hamilton going to presumably the safety position, you have a need in the slot. He's also my number 5, so I'll put that out there too.
Thank you.
I think, it's close between him and Gonzalez. I think at the end of the day, Gonzalez's measurables took the the spot. But if you look at draft boards from a lot of the experts, it's very split consensus on who's the top guy. Witherspoon, I think, has outstanding instincts. He's really just like a pro's pro. He just throws his body around with like reckless abandon. I'm almost worried that is he a little bit undersized, but you get a guy like that and tremendous value. I think really with the corners, what I'm looking for, if you want to get a first round corner, you got to have a guy that has the ability, not that he would, but the ability to shadow. Can he shadow the other teams? Not that they do that often, but that's what separates the good from the great, I think.
Yeah, and Vaz, that goes back to my comment. I brought up our show last night, Alec, like where if Marlon goes down, we're kind of up creek without a paddle. Like he bails us out so much, I don't think fans understand that it's the Marlon show. Marlon do this, Marlon do that.
Oh, yeah.
So I want another stud. Banks would be a great guy for that too. Again, nitpicking above the about these big corners. Vaz, you gave us Witherspoon. Go ahead, give us your number 6, buddy.
All right, so I'm going to Yuri's boy. I'm going to Banks. He's my number 3 corner. I loved how physical he plays. I think he's one of the best as far as mirroring and man. He's got the full skill set. I think his best days are ahead of him. And if you pair, as Yuri was saying, Marshall was saying, you pair a Marlowe on one side with Banks on the other. I mean, the best thing the Ravens had going for them the last 3-4 years was 2 lockdown corners. It really was. They walked in to every single week with that as like a matchup advantage. And it's a matchup league at the end of the day. So you have Roquan, you have the middle of the field with Hamilton and Marcus Williams pretty much locked down. You can't have a hole in your corner. Then they're just going to target that guy relentlessly. We've seen it too many times. So I'm pushing cornerbacks way up on the board. So Banks is my 6. I have a really good feeling about Marshawn Lattimore is what he plays the game with the same, I think, edge and has a lot of the similar physical attributes. So that's my comp, and you can get a guy like that, you take him all day. He's been on the level with Marlowe for pretty much their entire careers.
Yeah, I like to use Ravens comps for my comps just to make it make sense to the fans. And he plays like Marlowe. It's a really good way to say it. For just really physical, positives and negatives. The only negative you really want to pick on is at the highest level, change of direction, receivers, quickness can get him a little bit, and that he doesn't turn back and find the ball. He's not going to be an interception monster. But, I mean, again, we're picking with Banks. We talked about Banks a lot. Yuri, go ahead with your number 6 guy if you have one, sir. Get that big sheet out.
I do. Gonzalez. I will follow up with Gonzalez. The reason why I put him at number 3 is I feel like he's more gravitated towards zone. As a prospect, I think that's his calling card. That's not a bad thing. The Ravens do run a lot of zone, but in the terms of an all-around corner that can do both, I just feel like the other two were slightly more ahead, and I feel like the other two are a little bit more aggressive in the run game. And Gonzalez is still pretty good in the run, but I just feel like the other two. And speaking back on the scouting thing, with the reason, kind of circling back just for a second, why I put Banks ahead is because last year my corner 1 was Andrew Booth, and obviously he had the medical thing, he slipped a little bit, but I'm a very traits-based when I'm scouting and when I'm looking at the film, and I'm going to double down. I'm not going to let the helmet or let whatever it is shy me away. So I'll double down, and if I'm wrong again, I'm wrong again. I'll do it again next year, and I'll keep doing it.
I want to get one more thought from Vaz, and then Yuri, get your number 7 guy ready if you could, please, sir. So Vaz, could you see yourself a week from today, draft day, and I asked you to do this again?
Mm-hmm.
Do you see yourself putting Gonzalez, Witherspoon, and Banks number 1, 2, 3 on your board?
I could, yes. I think I could. From a Ravens perspective, those are basically a lot of people want to trade down, and I get that. I think the sweet spot in this draft is probably around 50 or so. A lot of edge rushers I like, a lot of receivers I like in that range, upside kind of guys. But if you get one of these blue chip corners, that's the one reason not to trade down, I think. if one of those guys makes it to you. Because, yeah, maybe there's 3 other corners you like that you can get 10 picks later, but they're not quite blue chippers of this level, of this caliber.
Yeah, and that was my point too, Vaz. I want a stud next to Marlowe. I don't want another mid-round pick, even though the mid-round corners this year, the mid-round edges this year, for that matter, are going to be better than they are in most years. So Yuri, your number 7 guy here. We got a wide receiver in the mix, a couple of edges, and 3 corners. Who would you take if everybody but your first 6 guys are on the board?
I would go Luke Van Ness. I would go Luke Van Ness. The reason why is what I highlighted earlier with Wilson. The Ravens need that powerful, just game-wrecking type edge rusher, and I feel like Van Ness very, very much fills that role. So, not much else to be said. Obviously he's very raw to the position, but the traits are out of this world.
Yeah, I like the fact that he still has some developing to do from his time at Iowa, to where, he's still young. Plus, they have that seniority system over there where he didn't play a ton of snaps. So, and when he's in there, he looked like the most talented guy on the line. So it was pretty easy for me to see Vaz on Van Ness. I have him as edge/D end, and
yes,
I really liked his run defense when he was playing like 4-4-I, and just his stack and shed ability. Like, I could see him matching up against left guards in a quote unquote base defense, even if you're playing nickel or whatever. But a 1st and 10, have him at 4-I working against left guards. I don't think he's going to be a terrible liability in the run game, especially come year 2 or 3 in the system.
Yeah, he's a monster. I mean, he's got the power, the length. He's actually my number 8, so I have him 1 spot lower than Yuri does. Only 1,000 collegiate snaps, I believe, or somewhere in that area. So he's quite young and inexperienced. I think he's got a lot of potential, and I would love kind of a hybrid edge/D lineman where you can kill 2 birds with one stone, maybe save a roster spot that can be utilized to give you, 1 extra corner or another place where you're expecting some injuries. That would really be my ideal kind of prospect. And he is, just a very talented, traits-based, powerful, just really powerful kind of guy. So I think he could be a combination. But my number 7 guy is the last of the big 4 cornerbacks, Joey Porter. I like the play style, the physicality. He's a press man guy, long arms, physical, lays the boom. I almost like his intangibles almost as much as his toolbox. I think we saw 2 years ago the Ravens defense really cratered after suffering some injuries. But part of it, I think, was also they lost Judon and they lost Peters. And they kind of lost their edge, like the dog ratio, so to speak. And Roquan's a dog, and Marlowe's a dog, but Porter's a dog too. So about 3 or 4 dogs per defense is about right for me.
Yeah, he brings that, and I'm a sucker, Yuri, for blue blood, not blue bloods, not blue chip talent, but blue bloods as far as the lineage. If your dad does something or your big brother does something, there's more to the game than money. There's more to the game than just making it that far. Like, Joey Porter has a bar set by his dad, who we have a pretty good feel for what type of personality his dad is. A take no whatever kind of guy, dare I say a hard ass for a father. Like, he will be pushed. Joey Porter will be pushed to be his best self. I actually gave him a true first round grade, guys. Which is why I have him at number 8. I had 8 players with a true first round grade. I have the tackles ahead of Joey Porter because I believe that they will be better NFL players than Porter. But the traits, the lineage, the everything else with Porter, love him to death. I think that, people saying that he's could slip to 22, I don't see it. I think he's gone by the mid-teens in this draft. And if we add 4 cornerbacks or 4 quarterbacks, Vaz, to your list, that would put Porter around the 11 range. Maybe somebody else sneaks in there at 11, 12, 13. To me, that seems more likely for Joey Porter than pick 22. Do you guys have a take? Vaz, start with you on Porter. Seeing him fall like this, like I don't see it.
No, it's a weak class. I think everyone knows it's a weak class, and you got a lockdown cornerback with NFL bloodlines, as you said. I would be very surprised if he made it to 22. I think that's more of a pipe dream than anything.
Yuri, you think he slips?
No, I don't think so. I think the place that makes the most sense to me outside of Pittsburgh is Seattle. I think he fits their system very well. And a little bit of Seattle's like a tiny little legacy place. They got the Legion of Boom, and just having Joey Porter go across with Tyreek Woolen, I feel like that's a very solid pairing. So that's my prediction.
All right, Yuri. So you really shook up the draft with the Quentin Johnston up there at number 4. Are you shaking it up again at number 8? What is your board? Who would be your next preference if they are available?
It would be Joey Porter. That'd be my number 8. Yeah.
All right. You want to go ahead and give us your number 9 if you have it ready?
Yeah. I'm going to follow that up with go ahead and give me Jalen Carter. I would put Jalen Carter here at number 9. I won't push him down too much just because he plays D tackle, even though he's got a rare skill set. But we already covered him. No weaknesses, all strengths.
There you go. So Vaz, I'm going to kick it to you real quick. We'll cover some ground here.
Yeah.
And you're number 9 since we
So
discussed.
I think this guy's catching a little bit too much flack in the lead up, and my guy's Myles Murphy. I think he has some serious potential. He's got the full skill set between the power. He's a very good run stuffer. He's twitchy. A productive, pedigree. I think he would be a very useful player, a guy that can maybe, again, take on a little bit of inside outside, but also round out the room. And I noticed you guys don't have him, so give me the downside.
Yeah, no, he's right outside of I think he's either number 17 or 18 on my list. So he's right there with Myles Murphy. Yuri, I don't want you to give it away. Don't want you to give it away whether he made your list. But I have a feeling he makes Yuri's list because he talked about the way he talked about Tyree Wilson. And I see Myles Murphy in a similar light. No nonsense, speed to power. What I like about him a lot, Vaz, is his get off is just ridiculous. He anticipates the snap. He's the opposite of Adafio Way. I don't know what Myles Murphy ran. I don't care what he ran. I have it written down somewhere if he did run. But the way he gets off the snap is special and anticipates the snap. He puts a ton of pressure on the left tackle. I think with him, it's just that every time I watch him, Vaz, I want more. It doesn't make any sense. I don't think that he leaves me wanting more as far as finishing the play, finishing the sack. I see him in chase down, a lot of cleanup type stuff that just I don't know, man. He would be in consideration. Like I said, he didn't miss my list, by much. But I'm worried that he could be one of those guys that just doesn't turn into
Cleveland Farrell.
Yeah, like a pass rusher only. I don't see him serving any other purpose as far as dropping in the coverage and that kind of thing. Where he could just be a pass rusher that can't get home. So that's why he's slightly, for all the great things I can say about him, that's why he slightly didn't make my top 16. If you want to go ahead.
I think, we want to develop the players, right? And the Ravens have a very strong assistant coaching staff. They just brought in Chuck, the pass rushing guru. A lot of the guys in this class really have there's just a lot of bull rushers and that need to, fill out that toolbox. And so to me, I bet on the traits and he tested well from what I remember. So
yeah, he's got an NFL body, that's for sure. So Vaz, why don't you go ahead, kick us off with your number 10? Are we getting into offense yet, sir?
We are getting into offense, and we're going with Paris Johnson, Ohio State, the big tackle. I like his, again, we'll talk about traits. He has a lot of ability, I believe, to be one of the premier blindside protectors in the league. Um, Watching him, it's not funny, but just what stands out maybe is the way he arches his back when he's setting. Just the way he can bend it for a guy that size. It just, you ever see like those like shorter guys that throw up like 400 pounds on the bench and they get on the bench and they have just so you can fit a soccer ball underneath the small of their back. Just the way he bends, Anyway, you don't scarce positions and premium positions, although the Ravens don't need a tackle at this point. I'm a proponent of best premium position player available. That'll be my draft strategy throughout the top 100. I think you get the surplus value. You can trade them. You can get comp picks afterwards. You're not trading them for conditional 7th round picks, etc. I think he's the best tackle in the class. So I would be okay with the Ravens taking him. It's more of a long-term move. Can you reshuffle the line and maybe figure out a better starting five potentially? As far as value, he's my 10th.
Love it. Our similarity, or our strategies rather, are very similar in that, that's why I have Paris Johnson Jr. and Broderick Jones right up there together before I get to the players that I would like to have. Like, I just think Paris Johnson Jr. is a better player than Van Ness or Zay Flowers or even Banks. Like, maybe I'm too low on Banks. So you guys are really making a strong case for him. But Paris Johnson Jr., you're talking about starting left tackle, a very good one. He has the feet and coordination, Yuri, where I feel like it's so natural to him to move that he doesn't seem like one of these guys that would have a problem if you needed him at right tackle until Ronnie moved on. Some guys are just naturally coordinated. The whole wiping your butt with your left hand, that's harder for some than others. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen it in baseball. Some guys can go from second base to third base. It's no problem. Or from third base to second base, no problem. Right field, no problem. Left field, no problem. Other guys who aren't as naturally coordinated, and just their movements. With Johnson Jr., his movements are just so pure, Yuri.
Yeah, I agree. Easily the best pass protector in his class. Like Boss said, it was funny to watch. When he was getting pushed back a little bit, his head would go all the way back. It was so fun. It was right. It was so funny. But tackle one easily. Not on my board. Not in my top 16. I think I have one offensive lineman in my top 16. Just because I factor need in a lot. And I agree with the draft strategy of best premium position available, but I also think need puts a pretty big chunk in that formula for me. So
this is great, bro. This is why I wanted to have you guys want to talk about this. This is different strategies. And I mean, these are the things that the Ravens are going to look at because, like I said at the top of the show, I want to go almost like guarantee you that if we're sitting there at 22, one of the people, two of the players on your top 16 will be available. Whatever your personal top 16 is. It's just the way it works. Like, again, we're not counting the quarterbacks. So if you have 4 quarterbacks, that's all of a sudden that's top 20. You're not going to go 20 for 20 in your board. Some teams aren't going to touch like a Quentin Johnson. Some teams might not like Lucas Van Ness. There's all kinds of guys that can drop. So, I love this exercise. Got a little carried away there with my excitement. Yuri, number 10. Who we got, buddy? Not Paris Johnson Jr.
No. Unfortunately, offensive lineman is not high on my need right now outside of a guard depth piece. But I will say here at number 10, I'm gonna go ahead and go with Cam Smith. I'm gonna do it. When we're talking about if the Ravens did want a playmaking type, if I'm not mistaken, he had, I think it was 16 breakups or some ridiculous number of breakups over a short span of time. So, and we're talking about Marcus Peters' replacement. I feel like this is the guy to me, more so than Forbes. We talk about being a physical specimen. I think he was a very high tester at the combine. I think it was a high 9 RAS. It might have been 9.5, 9.3, somewhere around there. But he's my guy, definitely. I was pretty low on him about 2 months ago, but the whole beauty of the process is you get to go back, you get to look at him again, and he's ballooning right now for me, my stock.
All right, so Vaz, I have him at number 21 on my board, so it's not like I don't like him. What do you have on Cam Smith? I'll just go ahead and go first if you
I
could.
think that's a reach. I have Smith as my 8th corner right now. He's just handsy, and I think that's not going to translate. And that's really my big concern. It's not that he's a bad corner. I like it. I like his potential. It's just a really good class. I wouldn't if DaCosta had the gumption to run that card in at 22. I think I'd probably say, I trust the Ravens cornerback valuation and their process because they've just done really good at corner over the years. But he's behind, several other guys, several other corners that haven't been named yet for me.
Okay, so Yuri, 11 pass defense in 2021, 5 passes defense in 2022. He has 6 career interceptions. A very physical player. I agree with what Vaz said. I was going to say it if he didn't. He gets very grabby. I think he had something like 6 penalties. I have that written down somewhere, but penalties were an issue for him. Also had, I think, a concussion and a hamstring that he was dealing with. But there's a lot to like Vaz. Like I like him better than Vaz does. I believe he's just outside, like I said, the first second round grade that I gave. So he's, what did I say, number 22 or something like that on my board. Really like Cam Smith. It's just a little rich for my blood. And I'm looking at Yuri. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cornerbacks in your top 10 there, Yuri. So I guess you're with Vaz and I as far as like you want to get a corner.
Yeah, definitely. I'm all for best player available at a position of need. So if that ends up being corner, cool. Ends up being an edge rusher, cool. Ends up being a wide receiver, cool.
All right. So do you have a number 11 for us, sir?
I do. So I'm going to follow that up with Jackson Smith-Njigba out of Ohio State. This is my number 1 wide receiver in the class. Obviously, Johnson's a little bit ahead, but I feel like in a Raven sense, that's why I have him ahead. But JSN, you always think about what do other players on his team think about him, and both Olave and Wilson said that he was the best guy. Maybe not the fastest, but one of the best 3 cones of all time and shuttles of all time. So you talk about the short area quickness, being able to separate, route running. He has all of it to come in and be a day 1 guy just right away and go out there and separate. I do think he can do it on the outside, maybe not vertically. Maybe you're not asking him to run goes and fades, but I do think you can ask him to run outs and slants and hitches and things that require that short area quickness to be put to use. But I think people are once again overthinking him. I made a prediction earlier. I think that the medicals may slip him to 22. And I wouldn't be surprised if he was there at 22.
Man, that would be a gift from above for me personally, just because I like him a lot. Vaz, I have a question here for Shrimp Trawler, if you could, sir.
Sure.
How much you pay in Marcus Peters if we get shut out of the corner? Void years are now in place since OBJ. Also, Michael Pierce, by the way, Shrimp Trawler, got void years added to his contract.
I think Gus did too.
Gus did too. There you go. So Vaz, I feel like I feel like a price is there for Marcus Peters for him to come back. I wouldn't even worry about what the pay was. I think that he very possibly could be in weight, and we might be doing this cornerback drill for nothing.
So I think he made 14 mil last year, if I remember correctly. I think he could take a 20%, 30% haircut off of that, somewhere in that range. 8, 9, 10. I think he's worth it. He was coming back from injury. He picked it up down the stretch. I think he really did. As much as people want to say he might have lost half a step, he was clearly by far the Ravens' second best corner last year by every grading metric and eye test and anything else we can see. And I think the ball hawking, that's a skill that should age pretty well. That's not something that necessarily goes away as you lose a little bit of your prime age athleticism. But I'm going to come back, if I may, to get back to our list here. I'm going to come back to, and I'm going to have a little bit of run on offensive lineman here. So I'm going with Broderick Jones at 11. I think he's just not quite as coordinated as Johnson, maybe. I think that might be what separates them. I think Broderick Jones, if you want to use a Ravens comp, I see a little bit of Jared Gaither in him. And then I'm going to follow that up with Skoronski at 12. I think he probably is going to play guard at the next level, but having the ability to get you by in a game or a period of time as a tackle does bring its own value, sort of in a Marshall Yanda type of way. And I'm not big on investing a lot of capital into interior offensive linemen, but if a guy has, all-pro guard potential coupled with above average tackle potential, then I think the combination does offer value to you.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Premium positions obviously is something that you put a lot of emphasis on. So having a guy that profiles better at guard, it actually just surprises me just from knowing you that you would have him. But I'm so glad that you do, because I felt a little shy putting him on my list, but I mean, this guy was a great college tackle. I mean, people have him, and I think that Yuri, I put out a tweet today. I want you to comment on. He's a guy I could see slip into 22 because I think more teams have him at guard than do at tackle. Daniel Jeremiah mentioned something like that during the draft coverage. So, the ability to play tackle at a good level at the NFL level, plus the ability to be a great left guard, maybe even a right guard that succeeds Kevin Zeitler, a stud on that line, to me is very, very valuable and a reason that he made the list. Skoronski's chances to drop to 22, though, Yuri?
I would say it's a lot higher than just about everybody else on your list besides maybe Darnell Wright. I would go about 65% or so, 65, 70%. I feel like that's fair. He's the only lineman I put on my list. And that's because of the guard tackle versatility. I feel like having an offensive lineman that can really move around like that and play all those spots well is valuable in the modern NFL. And like you said, I mean, Ben Cleveland is going to be up soon, and we don't know if he's good or not. Zeitler, he's heading towards the end of the road a little bit. You got Stanley, who's missing games. You got Morgan Moses, who was good, solid, but also kind of replaceable in the sense that you could upgrade if you wanted to. And of course, you have Falele, who's we got to see what year two brings for him. But I think he's if all the other players in my top 16 were gone, and he is my 16th, I would draft him.
There you go. I'm glad to see him get some love, though, because he is just a heck of a football player. And
I think it's reached a point where all offensive linemen are premium. When we see what kind of contract Ben Powers gets on the open market after some, not I, but some thought that he might not even make the team last year. DeCosta's been able to trade away, mid-round guards for mid-round picks. I think it's just, again, it comes down to scarcity, and the college ranks are not producing enough quality linemen to satisfy the NFL. So at some point, the supply and demand makes it a premium there too.
Love it. I mean, he's just, like I said, a really good college player in the Big Ten, going up against some pass rushers who are going to be drafted. So, the proof's in the pudding. I think he's got the perfect body type for a left guard. He would just, the way he's able to move, the way his quickness, the way he's able to block. Like, I could see him, if he can handle these guys on the edge in the Big Ten, he can definitely handle, some of the bigger guys that are coming after him on the left side of some offensive line, right side of the defensive line. So, Yuri, looks like you're up again, man. We're getting down to now. I would figure if your lists are true, like if this is your list and this is the Raven. If your list is the Ravens list, say that the guys that you have coming up here, or one of the guys you mentioned, like Cam Smith, would really come into play. So nitty gritty time, Yuri.
Yeah, we're gonna start off here. Number 12, give me Brian Brees, Clemson. Once again, doubling down on the traits-based analysis, and when you think about someone that has a chance to absolutely wreck the game, I think Brees has that. I think he has that Chris Jones ability to go on the edge and line up and just smother a tackle, or go inside, go in a 5 tech, go in 4-eye, 3 tech. I think you can line him up pretty much anywhere on the defensive line. And of course, there's some refinement needed. There's some tweaking needed. You maybe want him to play, more consistently, to be that, that consistent power rusher. Maybe you want him to do certain things. But when we talk about a game wrecker, I feel like Brian Brees is up there to me.
Yeah, and Yuri, it's Brizzy. Brian
No,
Brizzy.
I'm calling him Brees. Damn it.
All right, so Brees, Brees Hall. A local kid here from Damascus down south. Only a 3-year player. I mean, he came in. He was the top recruit in the country, Vaz. That's the kind of blue that you'd like.
No, I know. I'm a little bit of a recruitment myself, so I follow those guys.
Okay, yeah. I mean, he's got everything you want. And Yuri brought up something, Vaz, that's very close to my heart. I was scouting him. I liked him. I was like, well, he's got the short arms, but it doesn't matter because nobody can keep their arms on this monster. Mm-hmm. And you see the explosion to be able to come off the line. And, I think he could one gap. I think he sacrificed his stats a lot for that Clemson team, asking the 2 gap. He was getting double teamed a lot, center of attention on that team. And, but Yuri, to get back to what I was saying, I saw him lined up on edge and beat a left tackle like it was nothing. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, holy smokes. Like, this guy has got the goods to move up and down the line. Is Brizzy on your board, Vaz? I'll just put it
yes. So if we were going to 17, he would have been my 17th. Okay. So Sweet 16, Sour 17. Again, it comes down to scarcity a lot for me. I don't love him. I don't love what I see from him. I think there's maybe a little bit more bust potential than you would want out of a first-round pick from him. But you get a penetrator again. And I think really, again, what we're looking for the Ravens, they kind of have the cornerstone foundation in place. They're looking for a situational player, a specific skill set here, a little X factor here that's going to put like a Pernell McPhee who could do a couple little things, when they won the last Super Bowl, that sort of thing. So yeah, he would have been my 17th. I'm going to a guy that I'm surprised, my guy Marshall, I got him before he did. Nolan Smith. Smith.
I mean, he's my 13th. I was about to say him.
All right. Fair enough. Again, I'll go back to what I said. If I had my optimum, you get whatever you want pick, I would go for more of a rush body type that can reduce inside on passing downs. I think that would be the ultimate way to round out the room, almost like a JPP replacement. But Smith has a ton of talent. He's undersized for sure, but a tremendous tester. The thing is, for an undersized guy, he's a ferocious run defender. Ferocious, So I think there's a lot of projection. If you want to keep it to Ravens comps, I think he has some Tyus Bowser in his game for sure.
Yeah, even more explosive than Tyus Bowser. And a smooth mover in coverage. Noticed that a lot. He would be a great backup to Bowser and a rotational piece along there because, the Ravens like to play more than 2 outside linebackers on the field. Injuries come into play, of course. I think Nolan Smith is a guy that you can move anywhere. I had him just a little bit higher, so we're all in the same range here with this guy. He plays a lot bigger than 238, which I think is what his weight is. Just very polished all the way around. And then I think that, he went out with a torn pec last year, and I don't think that his pec was right. His chest muscle was right the whole year, because when I watched the year before in 2021, he looked even more explosive, even better player, even stronger. So I think he was playing hurt. I think if you watch Yuri, if you just watch his 2022 tape, it doesn't do him justice. It's compared to if you put both years to the last 2 years together.
Yeah, I agree. I think the 2021 tape, I think that does him a lot of justice. When you talk about a Sam skill set, what similar what Tyus does, I feel like he's a lot better of a run defender than Tyus. And when you talk about a player playing with sand in their pants like that, like for someone to be so light yet so effective in the run defense, like it's really interesting to see. This is someone that, like Voss says, I keep pretty good track of the recruiting part. So this is another very highly touted recruit that went to Georgia. So he's definitely a my guy, and I think the potential of a NASCAR package on third and long of Tyus Bowser, Nolan Smith, Odafe Owe, and Ojabo. I mean, that is the freakiest lineup of edge rushers you can have. You know?
9.9 RAS across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I also think that his eyes are really good, which is something that I love. The game is natural to him. He's not looking at his assignment. He doesn't have to stare at the guy in front of him. He's looking at the ball while he's taking care of business. And I heard the argument, well, if he puts on a little weight, then that might take away from his speed. Bro, he ran a 4.39. How fast do you want your front four guys to be? So I don't care. He puts on 10, 15 pounds and runs a 4.44. That's still probably one of the most explosive players in the league at his position. So a lot of love for Nolan Smith. All right, who we got now? We're getting down to it. Only a few spots left. Yuri, go ahead.
All right, I will follow up with Miles Murphy. All similar things that Voss said. Just another explosive, twitchy, high athlete, good run defender, power. You talk about stack and peak. You talk about ankle flexion. I think he has that as well. Just another, like this class is kind of loaded a little bit with these freaky guys. I need some like vitrally aggressive. Like I need someone that can just throw people around. And Miles Murphy definitely fills that void for me. I need an aggressive edge rusher. I need like one of those edge rushers like you see in the quarterbacks like stand in the pocket. They don't see it coming, and he comes from the back, and the quarterback's helmet comes flying off. Like there's like a sick part of me. I need that really badly.
Hey, it's part of the game. And again, Miles Murphy is number 18 on my list, right after Jordan Addison. So those are the two that missed for me. Vaz, who do you have next, buddy? You already mentioned Murphy.
I'm going Johnston now. I'm ready to break the seal on the wide receivers. Again, depth of playmakers, depth of corners, depth of offensive tackles, depth of pass rushers. Do the Ravens need a wide receiver to line up on the field? No, I think they have a pretty good quartet of top guys if everybody's healthy. But a long-term plan plus what can he give you this year? And I think sometimes people think that the prospects with good tape have high floors because of tape. I kind of see it oppositely. I kind of think that the testers, it's multiple ways to evaluate, right? But generally, I think 40% tape, 40% traits, 20% intangibles / work ethic is kind of the thumbnail that I like to operate under. So I think he has better traits than most of the other receivers in this class. He is my wide receiver 1. I don't think he's the caliber of some of the wide receiver ones in recent years. But as far as who would fit the Ravens and complement their team best in 23 and 24, I think he's my 14th guy.
All right, how about 15, Vaz? How about 15? Wayne receiver land still here?
Yep, I'm going to JSN now.
Okay.
So I really just think that the Ravens this year need specific skill sets. It's not just take a good player and fit him in somewhere. You have specific holes you need to fill, and I think they have the slot very well covered with all the tight ends that they have, and the wide receivers that they have too. Beckham may be most effective out of the slot. I think JSN can probably work outside a little bit, but he's probably going to be primarily a slot guy. So that's why he's my number 2. But he's going to be – I think he has a very high floor overall. So that's where I stand. Great hands, and just great route running.
Love it, man. Like, if you just saw their pro days and the combine, there's no way you're putting Quentin Johnston over Jackson Smith-Njigba. Like, it's like his route running, his feel, his just like he was doing head fakes around the cones, man. Like, who the heck does that? Then most of them are just watching the cone, trying to make sure. Like, he's a savant. I did struggle though, guys, with him and Flowers from a need standpoint, as far as a fit standpoint, because I think Flowers can be a Z. Like, I think he can play in Hollywood's role. He can be a flagger. You can put him outside. Smith-Njigba can too, but to me, you would be wasting him by not putting him in the slot. So I did struggle with the 2023 Ravens versus the Ravens of the future. In the end, I just think Smith-Njigba is a sure thing with an equally high upside. Who just, I don't care. By the way, Yuri, you mentioned Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, coordinators all saying he's the best. I kind of expect them to say that about their teammates, so I don't put a whole lot of stock into it. But like Smith-Njigba to me just grew on me more and more and more the more I watched him. I just love the guy. So Yuri, you gave us your number 16, but we did not get your number 15. Who is the last guy to make the list here?
So real quick, I think Olave and Wilson said that back in 2021. I don't think they said that recently, like during draft time. So that's why I put stock into it. It'd be different if they said it now and it's like, okay, yeah, of course they're going to say he's getting drafted. They want him to go as high as he can, get the most money he can, and all that stuff. But to finish my rankings here, number 15, I figured I started number 3 with a bang, and 15 is a multiple of 3. So I may as well do it again. And when you think about it, we kind of got all the edge rushers covered. You could put Flowers here, but so when we talk about premium skill sets and the ability to generate interior pressure, I'm going to go ahead and put Kalijah Kancey here at 15. Someone that I, once again, low on early in the process, but as time went on and I started watching him, the ability to just get after the quarterback is like bar to none to anyone. Like, in my opinion, I think he's a better pure pass rusher than anyone else and the interior defensive line group. I think he has all the moves you want. He has the ability, and even in run defense, he doesn't. It's not like he's getting, he's a 6'1". He's not he's a massive guy, but he's not getting pushed around. Like he's holding his own. And when we talk about the ability to bolster this pass defense, I feel like, once again, this is obviously my opinion, and you guys feel free to comment after I'm done, but the ability to get after the quarterback in the ball out quick era of having someone that's just so fast, like you just, as someone else says, Spencer Schultz, black belt certified with his hands. I mean, he really does know how to use his hands and get after, get past the guard and get after the quarterback. So,
all right, Yuri, kicking it back to you. Shorter response if you could, as we're running late here. Kalijah Kancey, love him. I think another team that doesn't run the Ravens defense, a pure even front 4-3 team, will love him more than we will, and he will get snatched up. Why he didn't make my Ravens board here. I don't think he's a plus run defender. I've seen him get pushed around. If we did draft Kalijah Kancey, does that signal a real change in Mike McDonald's defense as far as we're going to play more even fronts? Because I can't see him fitting in or being the best fit in this defense. Of course, he could play; he's a great player, but I like Brzee better for this defense than Kancey as well.
I think the Mike McDonald's defense is more of a 4-2-5. In Michigan, you see the two big interior defensive tackles and then the two edge rushers. So maybe you, instead of having those two interior defensive tackles two gap, maybe you ask one to the single gap, and then you ask the other one to hold a double team. So I feel like he complements Travis Jones pretty well. You have Travis Jones who can maybe eat up a little more space, and then have Kancey go hunt. So,
all right. So Vaz, thoughts on Kancey and then your number 16 guy, or is Kancey your number 16 guy?
No, Kancey's off my board. So I am probably a little bit of a size snob, so to speak. But some teams draft like that. I mean, they had benchmarks for a reason. So pretty much all these really outlier undersized, whether it's Kancey, whether it's Forbes, whether it's Will McDonald, we got to remember we're playing the AFC North here, and Linderbaum was an outlier pick last year as an undersized guy. And I don't think some of the short yardage problems on offense were completely a coincidence having an undersized center. I'll leave it there. My 16th guy is Zay Flowers. Just tremendous quickness, elite quickness, jitterbug. Just he almost reminds me of like a breakdancer playing football. And I'd be quite happy with him at number 22, even though wide receiver is not necessarily a huge immediate need. I think he has, Elijah Moore kind of potential with a little bit undersized, but has that explosiveness to thrive as a Z. So that's my 16.
Love it. So he gets a lot of love from me, obviously, on my board. Your thoughts on Zay Flowers, buddy, because he did not make your board. So what do you think of him? What worries you? Or maybe not even a worry. Why isn't he up there with Smith and Jigba and Quentin Johnson?
He would have been my 17th or 18th guy. To me, I definitely think he can play Z. I think Hollywood Brown's a perfect comp for him. But if I'm not mistaken, Hollywood Brown had a lot of yards after the catch in college, and that really didn't translate to the NFL. So I'm more confident in a bigger player having a bigger wide receiver in specific to being able to have that yards after the catch ability translate versus a smaller one. But I still think, it's not even the reason why you're drafting him. The reason why you're drafting him is because he can stretch the field and he can run all the routes pretty crisply. But not really a knock on him. But I just think he was just out of my. I feel that you can find Zay Flowers in the third round of this draft. You can't find a Kalijah Kancey in the third round. That's my opinion. I feel like you can get, if you're looking for that skill set, you can find a Tyler Scott, you can find a Jayden Reed.
Why can't you just draft an edge who weighs 280 pounds and stick him inside, and that's your Kalijah Kancey on third down?
Yeah.
Well, I love Zach Harrison, but I don't think you can. I don't think he has the same pedigree as pass rusher as Kancey.
So who's your Jayden Reed? Is your third round Flowers?
Tyler Scott.
Okay, Scott.
Okay, so for me, I think Flowers is a much different player than Tyler Scott. I love Tyler Scott, by the way. I feel like I'm higher on him than most. Like I would take him in the second round all day long when you get to that next cluster. But Zay Flowers, I think he's built a lot different than Hollywood, Yuri. Like he's one of them 5'10" or like a Ray Rice, type, like short, stocky. I don't think it's the height. He's thicker for his height. He's got a lot more desire. And I think a lot of Hollywood's yak came running past people down the field like Tyler Scott's would. Like Zay Flowers is the kind of guy that I could see you throwing a bubble screen to. And, he makes one guy miss like a running back, but then runs the next guy over like Duvernay. It's funny, man. I just am really high on Zay Flowers because I think of the energy, the urgency, and everything he does. Guys, so I wanted to get your opinion on one of my favorites. I have him at number 14, Emmanuel Forbes. I guess it's the size thing that
Mhm.
bothers you guys. You want to go ahead and talk about like where Forbes would be on your list if we extended it, that kind of thing.
So he's probably, I think he's a late first rounder, early second rounder. He's not off my board by any means, but 166 pounds is that's too small for me to not dock him for it. Dwayne Starks, Michael Crawford made a comparison, I think, to Dwayne Starks yesterday. It's something I've been thinking about for a week, and he beat me to the punch. He's 2 inches taller than Dwayne Starks and like 15 pounds, at least 10 pounds less. And Starks is one of the thinnest guys. So it's just a matter of, I know the SEC is the closest thing to the NFL you're going to get, but the NFL is bigger and stronger. So again, you trade back to, late 30s, early 40s, I'll pull the trigger there, but I'm not quite on it at 22 because of the injury risk. And I know he's a hard-nosed player. He fits the run, and he's a short tackler, but the frame just scares me. And I think I understand that people disagree, but I think that's a fair critique.
Yuri, go ahead, man. What you got on Forbes?
Yeah, he would be my 29th ranked player. I feel like he's good in a trade back scenario, but at 22, like Boss says, if you think about I know run defense may not be the most valuable phase anymore, but when you think about all the running backs and the guards and the tackles and all these, like the AFC North, you have Nick Chubb and Najee Harris and Joe Mixon, and you have all these big physical backs, and you think about Forbes trying to come up and make a tackle, and that's not, obviously he's a very functional run defender by, he's very good at it. It's not like he's getting ran over or anything, but you feel like at the next level, you could see him struggle a little bit with it. So I think the size thing bothers me, and I also think that I think he's a scheme specific cornerback. I don't think you can put him in press man. I think you're better off having him play quarters coverage, zone coverage, off man. I feel like that's where he best thrives in, and the Ravens do that. The Ravens do some variation of quarters and off man, but if we're talking about at 22, I want a corner that can do everything. And I feel like Forbes is just missing that one little piece for me to say he can do everything.
Okay, so I've said my piece on Forbes a lot. One thing I love is the way he quote unquote sets the edge, and he won't let anybody get to the sideline with those long arms. So he forces the action back inside for his teammates to clean up, takes out legs, and of course will pounce on you when he gets a chance. So I love his and talk to you after he does it, by the way. Talk a bunch of smack after he does it. And I just can't get away from the playmaking aspect. That's what I want out of a corner on that side. So you can hear me wax poetic about Forbes on other episodes, but he is definitely, I recognize my positional favorite. I got the stars around him on my big board because I realized that I'm higher on him than others are. So it would not surprise me if he went late first, early second. I just like him and believe in him that much. So Jordan Addison, that's the last guy I want to talk about before we wrap it up. Did not make either one of our three lists. He's actually right off the list for me at number 17. Yuri, how close is he for you?
I would put him at number 33. I feel like he's very identical to Bateman in a sense that he has the route running. He has all the things you want, but kind of similar to Forbes, the size scares me a little bit, and we know that the conference he plays in isn't really the most physical. And that's not to say he doesn't get off press man, but I just felt like I wanted him to test better, honestly. Like if he went out there and like got like a 8.5 RES and came in and like 190 pounds, I'd have been like, all right, cool. But he just came in really light for me, and once again, when we think about one, at least in my opinion, translatable yak. He gets it in college, but I'm not feeling too comfortable with him.
Yuri, that's a good point. One I agree with is that like Zay Flowers is very twitchy, very tough, very physical, rocked up. Addison is not like that. So I would agree with you that a guy like Flowers' yak will translate, where Addison is just a little bit slender. So Vaz, I think Yuri made some great points. I don't think he can, if you put him at X on the line of scrimmage, he's going to get checked out of his mind. I think it takes him a little bit longer to get open. Addison is like the Hall of Very Good to me.
Yes.
Every part of his game is good on the college level. But I also look at he played with Kenny Pickett. He played with Caleb Williams, who might be the first pick overall next year. I think that he was, his production he earned, but he was also playing with some pretty good quarterbacks against not such good competition. I worry about Addison's durability. I worry about everything Yuri said. I still think he'll be a good receiver in the NFL, but I don't see him being a chance like the upside. I don't think is great for Addison.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I actually just moved Addison to I swapped him with Jalen Hyatt, so I moved him above Hyatt today. Just, I don't know, not feeling the vibes of Hyatt lately. Anyway, I think he's a very high floor player, a low ceiling player. I don't think you have tremendous upside. He's probably pretty close to being a finished product at this point. He's a technician. That's really where the developmental upside comes, I think, a lot with going to the next level. And the question is always, what will this player translate? And size and weight and speed are part of that equation. So I don't love him at all, but I wouldn't be upset with him in a trade back scenario. He's my wide receiver 4. I think he's going to be a productive guy, but not a difference maker, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're pretty much all on the same wave with him. So I think that he's somebody that people are very interested in. I actually do have him one spot above Hyatt. I predict him to go in the first round. I think some team will like him. He has the one quality that matters almost more than any other to me at wide receiver, which is the ability to run routes, leverage, just a very good head for the game, where you don't have to be a great athlete to be productive. So I believe in his floor, Vaz, as well.
I think that's a really good point, because some positions you have to be athletic. Like, you can't get away with an unathletic or a sub-athletic cornerback. But receiver, right, you can put them in a position to succeed. A corner, they can target their weakness, so to speak. So I think there's a little bit of a misconception there.
Yeah, definitely. I think speed is non-negotiable for me for corner. One of the reasons I'm higher on DJ Turner than I see a lot of people. It's just like you just can't make up for 4.2 speed, man. That's hard to find. So guys, I really appreciate all your time here. Family to me, absolutely. Can't wait to come on your channel as well when you guys start getting started. I'll invite myself over. But guys, thank you so much. Yuri, you started the YouTube channel. Now Vaz is with you. Tell us about it one more time here at the end.
Well, obviously it's I think me and Vaz both started it. It was a jointly made thing, even though I made the channel, jointly made. We've been talking about it for a while, about 3 months or even more than that, probably like 6 months, maybe even a year. Talking about making a podcast.
Hold on, why the hell is the name Yuri on the channel then?
We're don't worry, we're rebranding. Forget that.
We got a new channel, yeah.
Yeah, but follow us on Twitter at Ravens Way Podcast, and we will be opening up the official channel for the next time we stream. So it'll be on there from here on out.
Very good, very good. Vaz, man, it's been a while. Always love having you. Hopefully we can collaborate some more between the two of us, because I just love talking ball with you guys. That's why I invite myself over, crash on the couch for an hour if you have anything interesting for me.
Oh, the feeling's mutual, brother. We really like this talking ball with people who know what they're talking about, and you can discuss Ravens need versus, breakdown and all that kind of stuff. So Anybody that wants to debate, wants to try to talk me into drafting Bijan Robinson, you can at Vasilis Beatdown on Twitter, Vasilis. I also co-managing editor for Baltimore Beatdown blog. I'm going to be releasing a new series this week leading up to the draft, the 10 most wanted at each position from the Ravens' perspective. Unique skill sets here. So we're not talking about just give me whatever player, just give me a slot receiver. It doesn't matter. No, you need a specific thing so they can start making. I think after signing Beckham, they put another puzzle piece in the puzzle, and they have a good chance here if they can get Lamar deal, at least get Lamar suited up for training camp. Nice draft here with specific needs being filled, and they're right up there with the very best of the AFC.
Agreed. We're all in, man. We're all in. I feel that. I mean, I feel like, DaCosta knows that he's year to year with Lamar. He can't figure out what's going on. So, all right, we're year to year with Lamar. Let's go for it then. Let's do it. Let's let you raise your value. Let's go ahead. We'll spread it out. We'll throw it to Beckham. We'll try to get you all the weapons. Great thought there at the end. Bijan Robinson. I think some fans will be upset that he did not make our list, but it's just not my thing. Not my thing either. Well, with that, I want to say thank you to our football family. Love my football family. I'm going to go ahead and edit the comments. Put your guys' Twitter in there and whatever else you want. I don't know how good of a job. I have to go back and check. But thank you to everybody watching. Follow Vaz. Find Vaz and Yuri on Twitter. I will have it down below in the comments as soon as we're finished. So with that, say goodbye to the people, guys.
See you.
Go Ravens.